Hey, what is up everybody? It's Animac here for Anime Uproar, and here it is. We finally have the full reveal and explanation for Deku's final quirk. The quirk that once belonged to the second one-for-all user. If used properly and in combination with Deku's other quirks, this new quirk could be the key to destroying All For One, Shigaraki, and all the villains. It is absolutely broken and overpowered, and Deku has just ascended to a whole new plane. He may have even just surpassed Prime All Might, which is insane, so let's talk about it. You guys know how this works. If you enjoy our vids, you want to see more in the future, leave a quick like and comment. It only takes you a second, but it helps with that YouTube algorithm. And if you haven't taken the time to subscribe yet, make this the video that you subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications. You really have to go through the trouble of subscribing, hitting the bell, and then selecting that option that says all. If you don't do that, you're still gonna miss a ton of our videos even if you are subscribed. It's just how YouTube works. Finally, this video will of course contain Boku no Hero manga spoilers, so please proceed with caution. You have been warned. So, as we saw in the last chapter, after arriving on the scene of the battle at UA, Deku got a chance to exchange blows with All For One / Shigaraki, and he also got a chance to survey the situation on the battlefield. The heroes who were fighting there are in really bad shape, and Deku felt terrible about it. All For One then taunted Deku, which resulted in Deku getting angry and almost losing control of his own power. All For One wanted this to happen because he wanted Deku to make a mistake that he could exploit, but thankfully Midoriya was able to talk Deku down and Deku regained his composure. The chapter ended with a fierce but fully in control Deku asking All For One if Shigaraki was still in there somewhere. The latest chapter picks up right where the last one left off, with Deku posing that same question to All For One. All For One responds by saying that Tomura Shigaraki is no more. The two personalities, Tomura Shigaraki and All For One, have now fully merged inside this body, and they became one new being. On top of that, the All For One personality was able to take control of this new being, probably because it had a lot more experience being alive than the still young Tomura. That would then explain why most of what Shigaraki is saying lately seems to be coming directly from All For One. We have All For One's memories of previous one-for-all users. We have All For One's mind games and psychological warfare, and all of that is clearly All For One's doing and not Tomura's. But while the All For One personality seems to be mostly in control, All For One's words are also misleading because his main goal here is to demoralize and scare Deku. He wants Deku to believe that Shigaraki's body is already perfect and unstoppable, and that there is no inner conflict within him that could potentially put him at a disadvantage at some point during the fight. As usual, All For One is trying to psych out his opponent. But Midoriya points out that All For One is clearly lying. The two personalities have not yet fully fused within this body, because back when Midoriya had mentioned that Tomura Shigaraki has no friends, Shigaraki lost it and began acting like a petulant child. There is no way that All For One would have willingly acted in this way, especially not during an important battle such as this one. So this proves beyond a doubt that All For One does not have full control, at least not yet. In fact, the more Midoriya and the others pushed Shigaraki over the course of the battle, the more unstable he became, which suggests that Shigaraki can still be defeated. There is still hope. Then the vestige of Nana Shimura appears, and she also confirms to Deku that Tenko Shimura is still in there somewhere. She recognizes that one of the giant fingers that Shigaraki's new form manifested bears a striking resemblance to her son, Tenko's father, and that proves that yes, Tenko is still in there, and he is still fighting with the demons from his childhood. All For One senses that the heroes may have found his weak spot, so he decides to escalate the fight in the hopes of taking Deku down before Deku has a chance to exploit this weakness. All For One's attacks are so fierce that they begin to break apart the very structure of the UA itself. Although the fact that the ground is made up of a bunch of steel plates that are not directly connected to each other means that All For One will have to work very hard in order to completely break down the structure of the UA. And that of course was something that Nezu had accounted for when he installed this new high-tech security system. Deku then begins his counterattack by infusing Black Whip with Fa Jin in order to create an epic combo quirk called Black Chain. With this move, Deku is able to grab hold of Shigaraki and whip him around the battlefield, but he can't hold on to him for long. This move alone will not bring Shigaraki down, so Deku decides to bring out his trump card. Deku reveals his final quirk, the quirk that once belonged to the second one-for-all user. The second user's vestige appears behind Deku and advises him to save his quirk for last. He also says that if they can't finish All For One / Shigaraki in the next 5 minutes, then the entire world is doomed. So now is the time to bring out the big guns. Now is the time to whip out the final quirk. This whole 5 minutes thing could suggest that Deku can only use the second user's quirk for a limited amount of time. So that means he has to finish the fight before his time runs out. Or this could be referring to how long Deku can keep using all of his quirks at once in terms of his general power. Or the 5 minutes could be a reference to some other time limit. But after we see just how overpowered the second user's quirk is when combined with One For All, I wouldn't be surprised if using this takes a huge toll on Deku's body, and if there is a firm time limit for how long he can actually use it. I mean, if there isn't a time limit or some sort of energy limit, it is completely broken. And so, without further ado, let's talk about the final quirk, which Deku proceeds to activate for the first time. Or at least for the first time that we as readers are seeing him do it. It is quite likely that he has already been training with this quirk off screen. This new quirk, which the unofficial translation refers to as transmission, allows its user to shift the speed of anything he touches. So Deku can use it on himself to make his own movements much faster, and that is the very thing that he does first with this quirk. Transmission also allows the user to shift the speed of his opponent after making direct contact with him. And as Deku lunges at Shigaraki and punches him into the abdomen from below, this launches Shigaraki rapidly upwards into the air. But even though Shigaraki is now flying upward even faster than before, Deku switches gears to increase his own speed even further. He goes into second gear and punches Shigaraki again, then into third gear and punches him again, then into top gear and punches him yet again. Shigaraki and Deku are now flying at such an insane speed that Mirio notices that the sound of Deku's punches is actually delayed. This could be suggesting that Deku's current speed is actually breaking the sound barrier. He may be moving faster than the speed of sound. By the way, Deku's top gear punch appears to be a direct reference to All Might punching the Nomu during the USJ arc. The position in which Deku finishes the punch is very similar, so this may be a subtle indicator that Deku has finally caught up to the power of All Might. I mean, All Might in his prime was an absolute monster, and Deku is still pretty young, but this is supposedly the final act of the series. So if there ever was a time for Deku to catch up to or even surpass All Might, this is it. On top of that, Deku has access to a whole bunch of new quirks that All Might never had access to. So Deku's ability to combine One For All with all these other quirks does provide some in-story justification for Deku potentially reaching the level of All Might at such a young age. And of course, since the new Shigaraki seems to be the strongest villain in history, stronger even than All For One at his prime, Deku will definitely have to become the strongest hero in history in order to defeat him. Now, as these furious attacks from Deku are assaulting him, Shigaraki / All For One is struggling to find his bearings and to figure out what is even happening. The sudden shift in speed and power is just too much to comprehend, and before the villain can do anything, the second user exclaims that this time, things will be different. This time, All For One will be defeated. Deku then catches up to the rapidly moving Shigaraki and even overtakes him using the transmission quirk's ultimate gear, Overdrive. Deku then punches down on Shigaraki with an absolutely massive Detroit Smash. The power of Deku's downward punch smashes against all of that upward momentum that Shigaraki's body had built up after being punched up so many times, and this creates an absolutely devastating attack, and in fact, by using the transmission quirk in combination with Detroit Smash, the power of that Detroit Smash went from 100% to 120%. So this is even stronger than the legendary 100% One For All. And as this brutal attack connects with Shigaraki's midsection, the vestige of Yoichi, the first One For All user, appears and says to his brother that today is the day that they finally put an end to all of this. Their conflict, which has lasted multiple generations and multiple lifetimes, is about to come to a climactic end. And on that momentous and power system breaking note, this chapter comes to an end. Wow, what a way to introduce Deku's final quirk. In itself, this quirk wasn't something completely broken like time travel or teleportation or turning into a Super Saiyan, but when combined with One for All and all of Deku's other quirks, this is an absolutely incredible and overpowered quirk. I give Horikoshi points on creativity because being able to change the speed of everything you touch, including yourself, is going to add a whole new massive element to Deku's fights from this point onward. And I mean, yeah, just the fact that Deku can use different quirk combos to actually surpass 100% One for All is in itself a huge and game-changing development. And honestly, all of these recent developments make me think that my theory about Deku's quirk Singularity really could be coming true. I mean, Deku is already fusing some of his quirks in order to create completely new attacks, such as Black Chain and this new transmission and One for All Detroit Smash combo. But imagine if eventually Deku becomes so powerful that he attains quirk Singularity. Imagine if all 7 of his quirks fuse completely into a single quirk that functions completely differently from the way that any of his quirks do individually. What if Deku's quirks evolve into something totally new and unprecedented? Something that changes his body forever and leads him to a new stage of evolution that rivals even that of Shigaraki's perfected body. That would escalate the battle between Deku and Shigaraki into something monumental. Something that could potentially destroy the entire world or maybe even bend space and time itself. Do you guys think that these developments in the story are leading us towards a Deku quirk Singularity? And what would that ultimate overpowered quirk look like? How would Deku's body change in order to accommodate a quirk like that? Let me know down below. Also, let me know what you thought about this final quirk, which is so far being referred to as transmission, although that could change in the official translation. What do you think about the apparent similarities between this quirk and Luffy's gears in One Piece? I mean, they both share the same concept of like vehicle gears, but Deku's quirk is clearly focused on speed and actually accelerating and decelerating, while Luffy's gears go far beyond just speed. Do you believe that Horikoshi made a mistake by making this final quirk so similar to Luffy's gear concept? Or do you maybe like it? Let me know. Finally, what do you think happens next? Will Deku now start wrecking Shigaraki / All For One, but then the villain will find some way of taking out Monoma and getting his quirks back? I'd love to see all your ideas down in the comments below. Oh, and by the way, I don't really want to talk about this too much, but there was another MHA Twitter controversy, this time regarding the cover page for this week, which showed Toru Hagakure in her hero costume. Like, it was literally just her in her official hero costume, the same costume that she always wears. And yet some people on Twitter freaked out because of course. And I'm sure that these people complaining about the female character outfits are definitely not the same exact people who post not safe for work art of the male characters all the time. Anyway, that's all I have to say about Twitter nonsense regarding fictional characters. If you guys enjoyed this video and you want to see more MHA content in the future, leave a quick like and comment. It only takes you a second, but it really helps me out a lot. And if you haven't taken the time to subscribe yet, do me a big favor and make this the video that you subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications. Subscribing is a completely free way to directly support this channel, and it might seem like a small thing to you, but it actually really helps us out a lot on YouTube. You can also hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at AnimeUproar. Big thank you to all of our Anime Uproar patrons for making videos like this one possible. Special thank you to Trucker Tim, a disciple of Lord Twigo himself. And I can't forget all of our The One tier patrons, including Alpha Sigma, Pate Heffa, The Toasted Chi, Corey McGowan, Owen, Taylor, and Anime S Code M. Finally, thank you to all of our other patrons, including Pro Hero tier patrons, the one and only Gilgamesh, Angel Cruz, Alicia Octor, Fatboy Games, Kaido Might Be a Duck, Alivania, Sandy, and the School Bus. If you enjoy our videos and you feel that they provide value to you, consider supporting us on Patreon or by becoming a channel member. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, see ya, Space Cowboys!